Hi, this is Billie Beene here with another segment of Truth by Billie Beene, episode 318. Today's date, April 28, 2022. War expands. Poland and Moldovia. ETs and war. And May. Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot subscribers, Benjamin Fulford, Mel K, Dr. William Mount, Nick Veniamin, Michael Jaco, Celeste Salome, Dr. Michael Salla, A Chrstoferou, Alexander Mercouris, Moon of Alabama, Cynthia, a lady who interviewed Scott Ritter, a Marine military analyst, and also I had some information from another military analyst used by Duran, a Drezin, who is from the U.S. Army. He's an excellent analyst also. Upfront Prophetic interview of Gene Decode, Super Soldier Talk interview of Laura Worley, and Israeli News Live, Jim Willie, and others. Okay, I'd like to say thanks, like, subscribe, and share. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. And I'd like to say thanks to all my Patriot subscribers for your words of encouragement and support for my channel. I'd like to welcome all 50 states, including Alaska, Hawaii, and the First Nations. Cherokee, Navajo, Hopi, Chickasaw, Mohawk, Apache, First Nation Pitt River in California, Mohegans, Yakama Nation in Washington State, Potawatomi in the Midwest and Oklahoma, Ojibwe Nation in northern Minnesota, a proud people who want peace and justice. Choctaw, Abenaki Tribe, Cheyenne, Massachusetts Pequot, Blackfoot in Montana, Spokane and Colville, and the newest, Powhatan. And we say welcome. And I'd like to say welcome to the nations of Canada, England, France, Ireland, Philippines, South Africa, Netherlands, also called Holland, Indonesia, Scotland, Germany, Switzerland, New Zealand, Maldives, Nepal, Norway, Australia, Chile, Thailand, Belgium, Mexico, Brazil, Russia, Panama, Guam, a U.S. territory, Jamaica, an Icelander living in Spain, and other people in Spain, Wales in the U.K., Sweden, Italy, Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory, Romania, Bermuda, Bahamas, British territories, Morocco, Argentina, Northern Marianas Island, a U.S. territory located close to Australia and New Zealand, Denmark, Bolivia, Uganda, Iceland, Serbia, Bulgaria, Mauritius, a small island nation off of Africa, and the newest, Ukraine, the Czech Republic, Poland, Costa Rica, and Malta. And we say welcome. So let's get started. It's going to be pretty interesting. So, we have a Patriot subscriber, Wells in the UK, on April 25. We hear a lot of military planes overhead, 5 to 6 times a day. And Dad said these planes make the same sound we heard during the Falkland War. So we have to wonder, is England putting out warplanes? We'll see. All right, and I have a Patriot subscriber talking about some of the representatives of the shadow U.S. government recently going to Kiev, but now it's believed they didn't actually go to Kiev. They were somewhere outside and just, did a CGI computer screen background. Okay. Austin and Blinken. And they're saying, this Patriot subscriber is saying that the fallen angels are involved, and part of what I'm doing in the sci-fi section is, yes, Dr. Makasala interviewing Dr. Courtney Brown, Farsight, remote viewing, ETs involved in the war effort. Yeah. So, and I wonder, did Victoria Nuland, is she going to be serving cookies at this event? Talking about with the shadow U.S. Austin and Blinken meeting with Zelensky, the actor now playing the part of the head of Ukraine, and was the head of, I think, the Department of State of Russia, Lavrov. He was in a meeting recently in India, and he said, yeah, you never can tell what Zelensky's gonna say. It depends on what he's had to drink or smoke. So, yeah, we'll know. Okay, a Patriot subscriber regarding Gonzalo Lira, dual citizen American Chile, had been interviewing, broadcasting from Kharkiv and Kiev in Ukraine, side Ukraine. He was taken and roughed up by the Ukraine police and supposedly is under house arrest, although I believe he's broadcasting now on some other channels. So he's been located. And yeah, he was roughed up by the UK police, house arrest. Yeah, that's right. So he's found. He's safe and alive and returning to broadcasting. That's good. Patriot subscriber. The Lakota Lines lives with Yakima in Washington State, and the Hopi, they're talking about different prophecies, Lakota, Yakima, Hopi, and the elders on a global basis are closing demonic portals, and we, red, yellow, black, and white, we're one humanity. That's correct. Mankind is killing us. Yes, that's the part that's not human. But we humans, red and yellow, black and white, that Sunday school song, Jesus loves the children of the world. Yes, sending love to all. All right, I have a Patriot subscriber talking about Devil's Tower is in Wyoming. And not a small mountain, it's a tree, and that's correct. All right. Upfront Prophetic interviewed recently Jean Decode. And Jean had a few things to say that surprised me. But doesn't God, well, I'm not equating Jean Decode with God, but I'm just saying we can hear some surprising things from God and from people who are aligned with God and speak. Okay. So Jean Decode is bringing this out about Governor DeSantis of Florida, that maybe he'll be a vice president with President Trump. So we'll see. We don't know where JFK Jr., what position he would have. But we've heard different things about changes in government. So, yeah. So Jean is saying this. Now, Jean is also saying this, and I haven't brought out, I had a Patriot subscriber who said, why are you talking about Dr. Ardis? And, he was talking about the snake venom. I haven't been prompted to do that. God is the editor of my videos, and in fact, in this segment, I'm bringing forth a new part, heads up. So, yeah, that's how God works. So I haven't covered this yet. Now, Jean Decode is saying Dr. Ardis's video, it's with Eric, Chris Eric, I think. He says it's a good video to watch that contains information from Dr. Ardis. So, yeah, that's going on. Now, we have ladies' issues with Cynthia, and she had interviewed Scott Ritter. Scott is a Marine military analyst. And he's talking about Twitter and wondering why Elon Musk would spend $43 billion for Twitter, which is about 1/2 of his wealth. And Scott is bringing this forth. Yeah, we have freedom of speech guaranteed to us through the Constitution. Well, I agree with Scott, but I believe that we also need to bring forth the rights in the Constitution and put them out in the practical world. And I believe that Elon Musk is doing that. And I understand that the Twitter account of President Trump has been restored. It's about time. Is President Trump going to come forth then and say the storm is upon us? We're looking forward to that. Okay. Now I have, this is some information coming out from Benjamin Fulford. He was interviewed by Mel K. And we have other people bringing out information. Cliff High, Jim Willey. Jim is a PhD economist from Costa Rica. His site is thegoldenjackass.com, and he has a newsletter, The Hat Trick, I believe. And he has contacts all over the world. He does global economic forecasts, which I understand are phenomenal. Okay. So they're saying that, Jim Willey is bringing this out, that both sides, the white hats and the black hats, both have these quantum computers, and they are daily running probability on them from 8 to 20 times per day because everything is in flux. So we Christians need to stay steady and continue to pray because God is in charge. So this is just saying the good side and the bad side, who's going to win? God wins. All right. And now, Regis Tremblay is an expat living in Crimea, and he's bringing this out. Regis Tremblay. That, right. The shadow part of the U.S. government, and the shadow part of the U.S. military, and the shadow part of NATO and other groups around the world, 30 countries, Regis is saying, have brought weapons and money to Ukraine. Well, it's not going to do any good in Ukraine if there are no people to use those weapons who are fighting on the side of Ukraine. All right, and he's saying, yes, Blinken and Austin, I heard some of the things they said, that Ukraine is winning and Russia is losing. Not true. But in line with the deep state-owned mainstream media. And Regis is going back to this, the overthrow of the democratically elected president of Ukraine happened in 2014, orchestrated by the shadow part of the U.S. government. And this is my Patriot subscribers' reference to Victoria Nuland passing out the cookies while the snipers got on the roof to kill the citizen patriots of Ukraine who were protesting the coup put in place by the shadow U.S. government. Yeah, and snipers got on the roof and shot the citizen patriots. And that was verified a few days later by a visit by the prophet Kim Clement. And one of his translators said, yeah, if you'd been here a few days ago, you could have seen the snipers on the roof shooting citizens, patriots. So yeah, that's going on. And then we know that Jim Willey, the PhD economist, had said that the number of Slavs slaughtered by the Ukraine military since 2014 and the eastern part of Ukraine is about 40,000. And some of the reasons that Russia went into Ukraine to liberate the Slavic Russian-speaking people in Ukraine at this point in time was for several factors. Here they are. And we'll see this demonstrated again and again. So the three reasons Russia went into Ukraine to liberate Ukraine at this point in time was about February 22. One, they had understood that a bioweapon was going to be released on Russia that was genetically geared towards Slavic people, or essentially white Christians. And then the also a cleansing by the shadow part of NATO. This involved multiple nations, including the shadow U.S. government. We're actually going to go into Ukraine and the eastern part of Ukraine and cleanse it of the Slavic, Russian-speaking white Christians. That was going to happen about February 24. All right. So we have this. And number 3, we had an ARC ship activating, and that's in Kherson. So we see that Russia had no choice to protect its people and had to go in at this point in time to liberate Ukraine. Okay, Moon of Alabama. What Ukraine is receiving in terms of equipment from Germany. Moon of Alabama is a blog by a retired German military officer. What they're receiving from Germany is old vehicles. They're not tanks, and it takes about a year to learn how to operate them. So essentially, Germany's not really giving them anything they can use. Now I'll begin with the Alexander Mercouris information. A Chrstoferou plus. They're 2 Greek journalists recommended by Decode. They're putting out some good information. Okay, let's draw a map. Here we have Luhansk, Donetsk. This is the Donbass area. From this area comes the military, the Donbass People's Republic military. We understand it's about 50,000 strong. We have a front line now all the way down to Odessa. We still have individuals shut up inside the steel mill at Mariupol. Judy Byington has some information on that I'll share with you. Okay, now the new thing is, in this area we have Moldovia. And we have multiple reports from multiple sources that Polish soldiers have gone into Moldovia and put on the military uniforms of, so Polish soldiers have gone into Moldovia and put on the military uniforms of Moldovia. And they are coming to this area right here, Tranista. That's inside Moldovia. And also Ukraine forces are trying to set up a second front with the Polish soldiers disguised as Moldovan military. The Moldovan government is not involved in this and doesn't want this to happen. Neither does the Moldovan military. This is Poland coming in to Moldovia, a tiny country, and taking over. And also Ukraine, backed, we know, by the shadow NATO, trying to set up the second front. Now in Tranista, they've had what's described as terrorist attacks in the last couple of days, taking out some radio antenna. So obviously if you were getting ready for a military operation there, you'd want to take out the comms. And then there's also a large ammo dump there, and it's believed that Ukraine wants this ammo, but we understand the ammo there is designed for Soviet weapons. So a question mark there. But at any rate, it appears that the war in between Ukraine and Russia is now expanding to include, on an active basis and an upfront basis, Poland. perpetrated inside Moldovia. Okay. Now we have information from Judy Byington about the supposed food shortages coming up. And there's a lot of information on that. That's the deep state. Now we're hearing conflicting views. Oh, the white hats are taking out all these food processing plants to get rid of the poison in them. I've done a lot of study on that. I do believe there's a lot of poison inside a lot of our food, and GMO is a nightmare. I remember reading about the assessment of that decades ago, and my first question was, wait. There's been no data collected, no experiments on what is the effect of changing the genetics of a major food source like corn, and then humans and animals consuming it. Zero studies on what is the effect. So, yeah, now we're seeing it. Plus, the story about the snake venom being in the water supply. So, yeah, white hat and black hat. So we're hearing conflicting stories. For my part, I believe there's probably some truth in both of them. We just have to sort out what's happening. Now, Celeste Salome is an expert on what's in the pharma for the arm. She has a medical background, former FEMA. And she recently was interviewed by Mike Adams. And she's talking about, yes, poison being in the manufactured food. I believe that. And so she recommends grow your own food and use heirloom seeds that are not GMO. And she's saying that the chemtrails are the HCQ. And from Gene Decode, we had learned that HCQ kills mankind. These are individuals on the earth who are not human, who have, I think it's about 75% of the genetics of mankind not human. The HCQ and the chemtrails will kill these individuals. And we'll see, I have several segments here that will show you, yes, we do need to reduce the number of these non-humans on the earth who would support a deep state attack on humans on the earth. Yeah, they're trying to, the deep state. And also she's talking about, yes, there are ingredients in our water. There's ingredients in food. There's ingredients in the GMO plants that disrupt the hormones in the human body, designed to bring on sterility and also designed to degrade human DNA and cut us off from God. Yeah. The deep state, we remember, worships Satan. So, yeah. They want to do everything they can to get rid of humans. This is not a conspiracy theory, but actually what we're dealing with. All right. Now I have multiple sources. Yeah. Dr. William Mount, Dabu 77, Judy Byington. This is some of the food processing plants that have been taken out. A food processing plant, they've been burned. Most of them are fires. San Antonio, December 21. JBS beef, December 21. Poultry location, December 20. Hamilton meat, poultry, January 22. LeCompte feed, and they're also taking out factories that make food for animals. In Louisiana, January 22. Bonanza meat, El Paso, February 22. Shira's food processing, Oregon, February 22. Boston, Wisconsin river meats, February 22. A food bank in Maricopa County, Arizona, March 22. Nestles in Arkansas, March 22. Walmart distribution, March 22. Potato processing in Maine, March 22. Sherbrooke food processing in Canada, April 22. Grain elevator in Kansas, April 22. Fertilizer fire, April 22. Azure Standard, it's a food processing fire, April 22. Food processing fire in California, April 22. Those are going on. Those are verified. I believe that anyone who says there's not something collective going on and organized to take down all of these many food processing places for human food, for food for animals, storage, grain elevators, and other locations. I believe this will dispel that. There is something going on. It is organized. And we have to sort through. Is it black hats or white hats? So, all right. So now we have Nick Viedeman. He interviewed Michael Jaco. Michael Jaco was 24 years, I believe, Navy SEAL, 11 years CIA. Had a close-up and personal experience with the Archangel Michael. Yeah. So he's saying that in China, that they are expanding their lockdowns. I think in my last video I explained, we had information, because I'd been hearing this, so I have to have some kind of reliable source to give some insight. Yes, the CCP was getting money to lock people down for various reasons. And Michael Jaco is saying, yes, he is remote viewed what will happen in the future with regard to crops, and we will have a crop failure in the United States, he's saying, which certainly could happen. We have weather warfare also going on, and we do absolutely have cosmic space events going on that are affecting the earth. That's correct. Okay. Judy Byington for Mauritius. I have Patriot subscribers there. It's a small island nation close to Africa. Yeah, the people are in protest there because prices are going up for the gas and the food. So we know the deep state is manipulating everything, and then they want us to pay more money. They just, okay. Mel K interviewed Benjamin Fulford. Now, Benjamin Fulford is a Canadian journalist. Actually lived in Cuba when he was very young. And then when he grew up, he became a journalist. He moved to Japan, and he worked for Forbes, I believe, for about 20 years, covering Japan. He still is active in Japan, has contacts with elite families over the earth, so he does have access to good information. Okay. So he's saying from his intel sources, British, Polish, Russian, German, that initially Russia inside Ukraine, there's a Dnieper River right about here, somewhere like this, and we have Luhansk and Donetsk, and Crimea's down here, Mariupol. So initially, Russia was just going to come in and liberate this area. But the shadow NATO and the shadow U.S. government, the shadow U.S. military expanded the military objectives by the controlled Ukraine. So now what's happening is we have a situation where, according to Benjamin Fulford and also Dr. William Mount, 2 weeks ago, Dr. William Mount came out with a map showing Russia is going to take all of this, including Odessa, Mariupol, Crimea, all of this. And all of these states are now putting up Russian flags and aligning with Russia. So Benjamin Fulford said, what's happening? The parliament, the legislative body in Russia, is now having to put together a legislative program to take in this much area from Ukraine. So that's going on. And Benjamin Fulford is saying Israel has broken with the deep state and they don't support Ukraine. And part of that could be that there are many individuals inside Ukraine who say they are Jews, but we're reminded of the words of Jesus, you say you're Jews, but you are not. And the Jewish people of Israel are not aligning with individuals inside Ukraine. Okay. So now, Benjamin Fulford is saying this, that the people on a global basis are angry. Yeah, I would say that. In 2020, by, like May, it was fully established in my mind, and I'm sure in the minds of billions of people all over the globe, that the deep state had released a global bioweapon to kill you and I and our children. Yeah, we saw that. We woke up. All right, so the people, he is saying in the U.S. are angry. The more of us who wake up, yep. And we know that the mainstream media is not telling us the truth, and we know that JB is an actor. Yep, a majority of Americans know that. Now, Benjamin Fulford is saying that Pope Francis has been replaced by an actor who's wearing a mask. And he's bringing forth some new information that I had never heard before. One is Japan has been ruled by Taiwan since World War II, and that now Taiwan and China are going to peacefully unite, and I'll give you some of the details he put out, and Japan will become independent, an independent nation. Who knew? All right. And he has this information from different elite families. Now, what's going to happen in Taiwan? Taiwan is going to keep their military. They're going to keep a democratic government. They're going to also send a representative to China to participate in that government. And it can even be that a Taiwanese can become president of China. And Taiwan is to release their government control over Japan. So who knew that that was going on? Now, we have this. Yeah, all of the weapons that these nations are sending to, we have multiple sources on that. Ben Fulford is bringing this out. All these military weapons that all these nations are sending to Ukraine, or the generals are getting them and selling them on the black market. Because essentially now there's no human reinforcements that Ukraine can use, not unless they want to begin using women. All right. So he's saying that the U.S. military that's locked up tight in Mount Cheyenne is supporting Russia, and that the United Nations is going down. Yeah, Judy Byington brought that out, that certain treaties had expired, so UN has no power over nations. NATO, the shadow NATO, is going down because more and more people are waking up and not supporting. And Benjamin Fulford is saying the deep state only has control over about globally 30% of the economy. And 9 out of 10 militaries do not support the deep state. So, and he's saying that many in the Democratic Party have tested positive, which means they've been arrested. Okay. Dr. William Mount is saying that there's a Russian document that has information right on the shadow U.S. government military, the 26 biolabs in Ukraine. And that the shadow U.S. government dropped chemical weapons capsules on the Russian army in Ukraine. They dropped them by drones. And they dropped them on Russian soldiers in, this was April 25. So somewhere, they dropped them on Russian soldiers inside Ukraine. Russia has the proof. They have documents and videos of this happening. So, yeah, that is a big story about the shadow U.S. government, shadow NATO dropping chemical weapons on the Russian soldiers inside Ukraine. Now, we'll do an update on Mariupol. That's the steel mill. That's has people, shadow U.S. Government people, shadow U.S. military. And on Monday, April 26, and I believe yesterday also, Russia extended another offer for surrender for the individuals who are in the deep underground areas under the steel mill. Now, Boris Johnson attended a meeting in India in the last few days, and he said, obviously he was operating on intel, that the Russian army was going to grind down the Ukraine military, the objective being to establish a land bridge from Mariupol to Crimea. Boris Johnson also made this statement that the Ukraine, with regard to Ukraine, coming from the European group to extend security for Ukraine in the future, the European group would give Ukraine equipment and training, but not Article 5 protection under the NATO guarantee. So we see distancing now by the Europeans from Ukraine. Okay, Judy Byington is bringing this out. Who is in that steel mill in Ukraine? And she's saying it's 2 steel mills, and that underground it's NATO plus about 3,000 individuals. They have military advisors from several countries involved in the Atlantic Alliance. And they're a secret NATO, we know that Lieutenant General Roger Clothier, the U.S. general in charge of NATO land operations, has been arrested by Russia. All right, and Judy Byington is bringing this out. Pit 404 lab produces chemical and bioweapons that's underneath that steel mill. And she's bringing this out. Inside that steel mill are 300 military consultants from Germany, Canada, the U.S., France, Italy, Poland, Turkey, Sweden, Greece. So now we understand who is inside that steel mill. We'll see how this goes in the future. Now we have information from Duran. This is a military analyst called Jaco Drezin. He's U.S. Army military analyst. I think he's retired. All right. So now he's talking about Ukraine. I think they bombed inside Russia, like an oil refinery. And then Russia retaliated. They are retaliating now, and they're going to be taking out railroads and bridges. So moving troops and equipment is not going to be possible inside Ukraine. And he's also bringing this out about Moldova getting involved in the army. And he's saying that, initially Russia was going to liberate Donbass and take Donbass and Crimea. But now the people are all over the eastern part of Ukraine putting up Russian flags. They want to be part of Russia. Well, of course. And this will be like 2/3 of Ukraine. Absolutely. Now, Alexander Mercouris is talking about war spreading to Moldova. And it isn't the Moldova government nor military. It's Poland pushing in there, putting on the Moldovan military. Talking about Transnistria, that they're going to be taking that. Russia has evidence. It's not just Poland. Then in Moldova, it's also Romania. So we have two troops changed and put on Moldovan military uniforms. So we have multiple sources for that. Now, he's talking about an action Turkey took. This is Alexander Mercouris. That they said to Russia, you can't fly Turkey anymore, which was not a problem to Russia. They could just go around Turkey. But Turkey was putting this forth, and then they also said no to NATO for any naval action in the Black Sea. So Turkey is trying to present, we're going to sanction Russia, but we're also saying no to NATO. We're not going to be involved in this action. Okay. Now we have information about Bulgaria. It's Bulgaria plus other nations. We know that recently Russia said if you want gas, you're going to have to pay in rubles. Well, Bulgaria is saying, no, we're not going to do that. Now, Bulgaria gets 90% of their energy from Russia. And now the politicians in Bulgaria say, oh, no, we can just change from getting our gas and oil from Russia, and we'll get these other countries, and they can change their pipelines. You don't just change your pipelines overnight. That takes years. And then we can pay more for it. Yeah, we know our citizens want to suffer, so we, the government of Bulgaria, can make a political statement. I don't think so. All right. And now we have in Ukraine, so Poland is moving more weapons to Ukraine. And I will say this, that there is proof now that along this front from Donbass, that we heard a few days ago, and I reported that Ukraine was now sending males as young as 14 years old to the front line and draftees with 1 week of training. Now we understand, I think that was Alexander Mercouris who said he had seen pictures. And the POWs, the Ukraine POWs that Russia is picking up now along this front line are older men. So it sounds like Ukraine has sent in children all the way up to their retirees. Who are they going to send in next? The women and children? So that's going on. So I believe that what's going on is that sane heads will come together because we understand a hot shooting war is barbaric. We're actually killing people. And Russia is doing a good job of performing professionally for a military, and it's obvious they're able to begin their forward advancement and to keep it resupplied, bring in fresh troops, and maintain that pace day in and day out. It's not going to take long to overcome these untrained and ill-directed troops from Ukraine. So we can look forward, I believe, to this war action being over soon. Unless the shadow part of NATO or the shadow part of the U.S. government or the shadow part of the U.S. military believes they can prosecute this war by sending in troops of that nation. Inside the United States, the American people don't want to be involved in this. They don't want to send troops to Ukraine. I think many are awake and they understand that this was at best, a genocide action against Slavic white Christians. All the evidence points to that, and an attempt to weaken Russia and to invade Russia. So that's not happening. Now we're in sci-fi. Recently, James Rink of Super Soldier Talk interviewed Laura Worley. She's a Christian homeopathic therapist who had been a super soldier. She'd gone through the MK Ultra abuse and mind-breaking program, and then was able to overcome it through Jesus Christ and God. Now, I'll show you how this works. And many of the people that are now coming out, who are bringing information out about ETs and this type, have almost 100% have been abducted as children. And this is to put them into active abuse, satanic ritual abuse. MK Ultra is another. I mean, they take these children, and some of the manipulation begins by the mothers in the womb and genetically altering. But 100% of these individuals are taken, exposed to raping and torture over a period of years. That's to break the mind. Now I'll show you how this works. We had this teaching from Kat Kerr. This is about the soul. So our soul has layers. You know, from the Bible, Jesus said, "Oh, you believe this day, you'll be with me in heaven." I didn't doubt that, I just didn't understand how it could be. Well, it can be because we have layers to our soul. And every interaction we have, we give layers of our soul to our family, our friends, and we take a layer of their soul. That is how we're bonded. That's why you're supposed to be careful about being intimate with people, because you're exchanging layers of soul with them and everyone they've been intimate with. So, okay. So Kat Kerr has a cleansing prayer where you can call back layers of your soul you've given away and then cast out other people's layers and then get a download of God. So it's good. So at any rate, during the abuse, the souls, they take out different layers of the soul, and then they program them. They program them with characters And they can even be in a female body. You can have one character that's male, believes it is male. And they have give them names and then objectives for their job they're going to do in the future, triggers. And Gene Decode had said the number of these deep state, literally many are mankind, humans. So if they're mankind and they have 75% mankind DNA, they're never going to wake up. They're always going to stay programmed. Humans, if you have 52% of human DNA, you can wake up and throw off this triggering. Now, so each layer of the soul is given a name, a character, a trigger to do a specific job. And Laura Worley was saying some even are programmed to do suicide. So if you had a big group of people committing suicide, it would impact the population negatively. Some are programmed to be assassins. And Gene Decode said the number was one person per block on a global basis that the deep state had over thousands of years infiltrated and put in place. And of course, Laura Worley is correct. The only way to overcome that is through Jesus Christ and God. That's absolutely true. But you can break that programming. So that's coming on. Now we have Dr. Michael Salla came out with this morning. It was a remote viewing of by Dr. Courtney Brown of Far Side, and he was remote viewing ETs and their involvement with Russia, the Russian government, and President Putin. Now, we Christians are familiar with this because what I got out of what they said was that negative ETs had tried to influence the outcome of the war, and we know that the deep state loves war because a lot of these entities feed off of the energy that comes out of people dying. And also they do soul scalping, steal their souls, and even do what's called walk-ins. The human soul leaves and the entity will walk into the body and animate it. Those things are real. All right. So now what I got out of this, Dr. Michael Salla and Dr. Courtney Brown, yes, that's correct. There were negative ETs. We would call demons or spirits or devils trying to influence Russia. Now, I noticed that Dr. Michael Salla was careful to just put forth details about this and not take a political position. But obviously, there were multiple reasons why Russia had to go into Ukraine now. And not the least of which was the slaughter of Russian-speaking people in the Donbass area. Also, a cleansing action that was planned by multiple nations who had their troops situated around Ukraine, and we're going to go into the Donbass area February 24 to cleanse it of the Slavic Russian people. Genocide. And that was going on, plus the biolabs were going to release some kind of new pathogens into Russia to kill Slavs in Russia. Yeah. So Ukraine, Russia really didn't, the time was dictated by the circumstances. Now, we have, the mainstream media holds Ukraine innocent. And we also understand now that from multiple sources inside Ramstein, as a U.S. military base in Germany, that now, this is April about 27, there were generals meeting there from 40 nations. So what do we think they're talking about? But the people of the world are awake. The mainstream media is no longer able to, and most people I know don't even watch TV, or if they watch the news, they don't believe it. So, yeah. All right, this is a new segment that God had me add, and this is Heads Up. And the first thing we're going to cover are EMPs. And what is that? All right, so this is Celeste Salome is bringing this out about, yes, there are suspicious observers. This is Ben Davidson. Yeah. Okay, Ben for years has put out a space program show, comes on about 5:30 or so every morning. It tells you what the sun's doing and other things. Ben is solid science, independent voice. Recently came out with what's coming is a micronova. We would also, some people call it a solar flash. And Ben is correct. It's on a cycle, a catastrophe cycle of 12,000 years. That's correct. And Celeste Salome, a medical background, former FEMA, is coming out with this. The electromagnetic field shield over the Earth is weakening. That's been going on for decades. And this could bring about a pole shift. And they are constantly having to update GPS. That's correct. And Celeste is putting this out. It could be the 6th extinction level event for the Earth. Cosmic rays have increased. It affects our body, our mind. Yeah. And, yeah. And it's the first, she's stating that the first people she believes who are going to be very negatively affected by these increased cosmic rays coming in, health-wise, are people who live on processed food. I can understand that. Once you look into what's in fast food and what's in a lot of our processed food, it's not good for us. Now, she's talking about Daniel's 70th week. Okay. So, yeah. There's, and talking about an ice age. Now, Cliff High and Ben Davidson agree possible ice age 2030. Now, let's talk about EMPs. So we have the electromagnetic shield for the Earth is weakening. We have cosmic rays coming in. What is an EMP? This is an electromagnetic pulse. And what are the sources for this? This can come from space, like space debris or an asteroid. It comes in, hits our atmosphere, produces an explosion like a shock wave. So that's one cause. It can be caused by lightning, again producing a shock wave. And what it does, it affects electronics. And if you have anything that's operating on a computer, it's going to keep it from operating. Now, another source is a nuke. And I thought it curious that recently Joel Skousen, political analyst, came out with, the U.S. had agreed we would take the first strike and then retaliate. And about 15 minutes before a nuke would come in, we would have an electromagnetic pulse to take out comms, electronics. I don't believe we're going to have a nuke. Lightning and space debris, that seems reasonable. Now, when this happens, if you have an electromagnetic pulse, your computer would not work. And for many vehicles, current vehicles, the car, the truck that has a computer in it would not work. Now you can buy these little gadgets. The company is called EMP. If you go on Israeli News Live, that's one of their sponsors. They have a code that can save you $50. And I looked at them, and they're just small little gadgets that you can attach. And you can get one for your house, or one that's portable for your RVs or other locations, or one for your vehicle. And they're all about $400. So, if it could be that newer vehicles have this built in, but I'm not sure. So this is what I'm bringing forth on this first heads up that God wanted me to add. And now we're up to look ahead. Let's see what the future holds. And we're still saying May looks good for a return of President Trump. Gene Decode's probability was 50% up, and there are other things going on. So Judy, Byington, military chatter, high, JB is out. And we have, and she's reporting this also, the shadow U.S. military on that chemical capsule attack by drones on the Russian soldiers inside Ukraine. Yeah. And the UN loses power because all the treaties expired April 26th at midnight. And we have active nations are now no longer, are going to be switching from the SWIFT system, and that's an international exchange of money, and going to the SIPS. And in 2016, the White Hats seized the gold in the Vatican. And she's saying in 2017, the JB we see is under the control of the White Hats, who has infiltrated the deep state. That was his job. She's saying that Bush Sr. had become an informant to the White Hats, and that's why at his funeral, invitations were handed out to, like, Bush Younger and Jeb Bush and Laura Bush and the Clintons and others. A lot of speculation on what was in those. And she's saying that we can see a collapse of deep state companies like BlackRock and Vanguard, and that Elon Musk, his purchase of Twitter was to put in place bringing back President Trump. She's saying in Germany, per the Commander-in-Chief of Special Forces, Germany is free, and they no longer have any mandates for Pharma for the Arm nor test. And she's giving the names of some global groups that are new to me. World Allied Forces, Federal Earth Defense Special Forces, Intergalactic Earth Protection Special Forces. And she's saying that we're going into a period of transitional governments on a global basis and the putting in place of military courts on a global basis. Now she's giving details of what had been the New World Order deep state plan for the 21st century. They wanted to do away with ownership of private properties, do away with governments, do away with farmers, and only allow large corporations they control to grow food. So we can thank God, can't we, and the white hats. All right. Now, Joshua Phillippe of Crossroads is bringing this out. And the more we see information about the deep state coming out and being exposed on a media platform, the stronger our belief can be that we are getting close to the end. Praise the Lord. So he's bringing this out on his Truther platform. Information is coming out about Obama, HRC, and other groups, and it's all bad. All right. Now, ShariRaye's information is coming out that President Putin regularly gives President Trump updates on what is happening in the war effort. And so far, 35,000 plus young humans have been rescued from those deep underground areas. And the alliance has stopped the deep state, from exploding a volcano in Yellowstone, setting off a tsunami to take out Seattle, Washington, putting off a nuke to attack Disneyland in Florida, Five Fingers area in New York, and Los Angeles. Yeah, that's all in the past, since about 2015, those things. Okay. Nasara is going forward. We can look forward to May 5 of 2022 being a red code date. And we have Twitter online and President Trump ready to bring forth his new information on, and the JB is to comply with a court order to that the shadow government was trying to take away the gate closures on the border, U.S. Mexico border, to make it open. So that's been taken away. And Wells Fargo is expecting Nasara, and there are 3 nations who are so far are not compliant: Israel, Iraq, and Venezuela, with the requirements of Nasara. So that's being worked on. So I'm thinking that May continues to look good for big things to happen and our government to stabilize and our elected president to be put back in place. Okay, short prayer. Here's a cleansing prayer modeled by Decode. We remove permission to be in us, on us, around us, on earth, off-world, any dimension, any person, place, or thing not of God, any assemblage of fallen angels, AI, nanobot, and other forms of tech, any non-terrestrial species, spirit, thought form, operating system, genetic overlay, past, present, and future. Yeah. We say get away from us in the name of Jesus. Now this prayer is 6 of 8. It's the names of God from Psalms 18. And this one is entitled My Buckler. And I learned the difference between a buckler and a shield. A shield is big, and a buckler goes over your arm, like you would swing your your sword, and you would have this covering on your arm to deflect. So, all right, Proverbs 2. He lays up sound wisdom for the righteous. He is a buckler for those who walk upright. Jeremiah 46. Order the buckler and the shield, and draw near to battle. Samuel 22. Psalms 18. As for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is tried. He is a buckler to those that trust in him. Ecclesia 37. There is a companion who helps his friend, takes up his buckler against the enemy. We ask, O Father, for your protection and defense of our arm, wielding your sword, your spirit, and your word, to vanquish all of our enemies, whether on earth born or not, whether human or not. Clear our paths of all enemies, firstborn or no. And we say thank you, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. And I'd also like to bring this out. I'm not sure if I mentioned this. In that sci-fi section, when the splitting of the soul was going on and the embedding by the handler of jobs and triggers and words, I had a download from God that certain people are triggered to visit like national parks at a certain time. That's part of their triggering process. Now, it's not everyone, but haven't we all heard people who said, oh, I've got to go there and I've got to be there in this certain month? I mean, I've heard that people say that. Well, it's a download from God. Some of these are triggering inputs to the individual. Okay, and I'd like to say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray. God is in charge and he is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.